Today's episode is brought to you by PTZ Optics. This ability upgrade. New Wave Toys and their Replicate Amusements products. GG Retrobox. Get 3 to 5 games from your favorite series, consoles, and game genres delivered to your doorstep every month with GG Retrobox, the ultimate retro gaming subscription box for video game enthusiasts. Use code GRS15 at checkout to get 15% off your first box. And
Boom shakalaka! Hey everybody, it's Tim Kitcher here, the voice of some of your favorite video games like NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, and I'm here to talk to you about Old School Gamer Magazine. It's the magazine for retro gaming, and it's exploding. Kaboom! Print issues come out every other month, and if you want to go green, digital options are available. Visit oldschoolgamer.com and subscribe now. That's oldschoolgamer.com. Boom shakalaka! Kaboom!
All right, we are live. We're back on Friday, kicking it old school. Hopefully, we have audio. So we got Steven and our special guest, Peter David. I can never say your last name. Peter, how do you say your last name?
It's Hirschberg. Hi, everyone.
Oh, it's Hirschberg. Oh, it's easy. It's
Hirschberg,
easy.
yeah.
Hirsch
Welcome.
plus Berg.
So hopefully
Cool.
our audio
So
is
welcome.
good. Everyone can hear everything, and I'm just waiting for the people to give the good
It
thumbs
sound-
up.
Did Glenn get the sound right finally?
Yeah, we want to see 117 episodes to see if we got the audio. The
Yay.
audio's good. Audio's good. And Video Game
It's a
Vegas, I want
miracle.
to say real quick, you sent me the email. I haven't had a chance to read it. I will read it and get back to you, I promise. So, Steven, did you have your glasses and I do not? Run through who we
I
have
got
in the
my
chat.
glasses. Oh, you're getting me to read this again. All right. All right, so we've got, let's see, we've got Jason, Peter McNabb, JJ, Rich, Hobby Hands, Pliskin's Run, Ritualdelio, whatever. I can always screw up that guy's name. Mikey Yoon, Thor KC, welcome. Who else we got? Ed Adam Green, welcome. Video Game Vegas, these are becoming a very, very regular. Vet 1981, let's see, Andy's Game Room, Jeff D, Goofyfoot, Green Sammy 87, and Paul Berenson. So, and there's still people rolling in. So we're only at
Yeah.
30 at this point. And it is Friday on top of that. Just having people
It
come
is.
and watch our
Thank
on a Friday.
God it's Friday. You
It's
know,
a privilege.
it is. It's like kicking old school. Almost should just be called TGIF because we're all so thankful for Fridays. I'm thankful for Fridays.
I am. What about you, Peter? Are you thankful for Fridays?
This is a 3-day weekend Friday for me, so I'm extra thankful.
Oh yeah, same
Right.
here. Yeah,
That's right.
Labor Day here in Canada. So I'm up in Canada. Peter's down in the Virginia-ish area.
Proximity.
And then, yeah, and Glenn, he's in New York.
I'm in the middle.
You know,
I'm in the middle. New York.
yeah. So,
In the middle.
so we all get Labor Day weekend. So that's pretty cool. So, how was your week, Glenn? Good, bad?
Well,
Indifferent?
it was we had a couple of go lives. We opened a new cancer building. So we
You
did that on
opened up with a
Monday.
cancer. You got to reword
Yes,
that.
we did.
I think a little.
We did. So we got that up and running, going well. But of course, today, about 2:00, one of our main systems had gone down. It was cloud-based, of course, so it wasn't really us. It was our vendor system went down. We spent about 2 hours getting that fixed, but it's fixed. So we're starting Friday and the weekend off in a good way. It's supposed to rain tomorrow, but I think Sunday and Monday is supposed to be nice. Big Stoneville flea market happens around here. So it's going to be probably a little hectic around the house. But enough about that. Peter is someone I've
Like
known.
for Peter.
Yes, I've known Peter actually probably since I would say 98, 99, because Peter's been in this industry and all different kind of aspects of it. He's done some programming. He's worked for some companies. We're going to talk about it. He's had some really cool arcades at the house. He had an arcade that people were able to enjoy. He's just an all-around really nice guy, and I happened to get him on the show this time. He was free, so we're going to talk to Peter and talk a little bit about some of the things he's done. I'm just excited because one of the first emulators I got, back when emulators were first coming out, before MAME, before the multiple arcade machine emulator became a thing, you pretty much had an emulator specific to one game or a couple of games. Maybe you had a certain genre, certain games that were done. And that's kind of how I got to know Peter. He had released a game system, an emulator system on the PopUR called Vector Dream. And I thought it was out a little bit later, but he says, no, it's like around 98 this had come out. And Peter, tell us a little bit about Vector Dream, and then I'll share a little bit about it. But tell us a little bit how this kind of got started.
Yeah, so I found out about MAME, and I was like, this can't be real. This was like 96 or something like that. And I downloaded it, and I downloaded the ROMs for one of my favorite games, Tail Gunner. And I kind of scrambled around trying to figure out how it worked, and I got the game to actually boot up, and there was the attract mode for Tail Gunner. I was like, this is crazy. How does this work? And I tried out Space Wars and a bunch of other ones, and I was like, this is just crazy. And I was a programmer at the time, so after using it a couple of years, I was like, I could probably make my own and make some improvements, especially for the vector games, because at the time MAME could do vector games, but they were, pixelated, non-anti-aliased lines, and they didn't have the backdrops. Like, you'd load up Asteroids Deluxe and it was missing that glorious artwork behind it. So I wanted to do something that sort of brought more to the table as far as emulation, and kind of gave you more of a simulation of the game cabinet than the game itself. So I put burn in on the screen. I put, you'd have to put a quarter in and you'd hear it clink down and credit the machine. You'd hear the fluorescent marquee bulb turn on when you launch the program. Just little things like that. But one of the things I'm most proud of is I had an Asteroids game and a Space Wars game at the time. And I just put my face up against the bezel and I was just staring at the vectors, trying to figure out why they didn't look right even after I added anti-aliasing, why they didn't look right on my emulator. And it finally occurred to me after staring at this thing, where the vectors would overlap, they would get brighter. And especially if there were a bunch of vectors in one place, like where I really noticed this was like the sun in the middle of Space Wars, the star or the sun, at the center that's really bright, and then it kind of gets less bright as the rays come out. And I was like, oh, I can do that. I can just grab what's on the screen already, what's been drawn previously, and add that to what I'm drawing now, and it would create this additive translucent effect that really I thought added a much more realistic looking vector simulation. And I was really proud of that. And I started working for, not working for, but helping out some other guys that had gotten together, some other emulator writers on a project called, I think it was R-Cade, Neil Bradley and
Oh, right. I forgot about R-Cade.
Yeah. So I brought all my ideas to the table with them, did one or two things. I was out of my league with those guys. Those guys were hardcore, and I was just kind of stumbling my way through it. But yeah, I think it was like a couple months later, MAME added translucent vectors to their emulator, and I was like, well, that's kind of sucky. And they put a little comment about thanks R-Cade in the code, but nothing in the credits. And I was after them for years. Just give me a little one-liner credit in the release notes, or something. But I don't know. They're a bunch of people, and I guess they're very bureaucratic, and it's hard to get things like that to happen. But I have vector games on my little Game Boy Micro, and they do the same thing now. They do the translucent vector effect. So kind of a lost cause now, but I thought it was nifty at the time, and I guess other people did too, and it caught on.
Well, I'm going to stop you there real quick because Video Game Vegas is bringing up R-Cade 1-Up, and that's one of the things that got me, which you did in like Vector Dream. We're looking at Asteroid Deluxe over here, and you can see you have the backdrop, and R-Cade 1-Up released their Asteroid machine that had Asteroid Deluxe on it, but it didn't have the backdrop, and it's not the same game when it's missing things like that, when these type of overlays. In Space Invaders, the same thing. They released Space Invaders. You could have put the backdrop in it, R-Cade 1-Up. You could have. But that's what I liked about the Vector Dream emulator was, first of all, like he was saying, the vectors themselves were done very well. He does make it so you put the coin in, you hear the coin drop going in. I'm not sure if you heard that, because I may have that off. Try it again. And then you see the lights, the volcano buttons actually light up here and flicker. And then you press them and you start your game. It sounds the way it's supposed to sound. It plays smooth. Obviously, the machines are a lot more powerful now than they were in 98 and 99. But the backdrop is important here. But the other one I wanted to show real quick is you also did Tempest. And it looks like you may have increased the vector effects in it. Because I was looking at them, like the explosions look really interesting. And I'm not sure if that was how the R-Cade did it. But you can see it's got like the fireballs, if you can see that, are a little more illuminated.
Yeah, I wonder if
I right? Did you?
I may have just cranked up everything a little bit. It may be the translucent vector effect. I'm not sure. It's been a while.
It's still the best version I played, as far as almost like Tempest 2000. That came out from Atari, but it was very, very good. And a lot of people, I'm going to show real quick again, is Tail Gunner, because that is a favorite game of so many people. And a few people in chat say, that sit-down Tail Gunner was like, fantastic. And people don't know Tail Gunner. It's Tail Gunner's not here. I'm sorry. I was thinking of Red Baron. But Tail Gunner is a great game too. Red Baron was still a sit-down game in here. That, again, not too many people play, but Tail Gunner was a very good game as well. But all these games and his emulator from 1998, this is I think 2.2, is running on a Windows 11 machine right now. How many emulators still function? So you must have coded really within the Windows, I guess, the Windows proper APIs, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I used all Windows calls because that's what I knew at the time. When I went over to the R-Cade guys, they were doing everything in like pure assembly, and that's what, like I've said, I was I was among giants there. They definitely were more hardcore than I did. But yeah, I just used like standard GDI calls and all Windows functionality. I didn't do any external libraries or anything. So that's probably why it still works.
And I'm glad it does,
That's
because
pretty
I still play it all the time. Back in the day, a lot of people know I have an NES Pro Play home arcade, which is basically an NES and an arcade cabinet. And when this emulator came out, I put a PC. When I converted it, I converted it from an NES machine to a PC with a big monitor. It was a 25-inch CRT just for Vector Dream and to play those games on it, because that's how good and how much I appreciated the TLC. Because it's sometimes those small little touches, like the hum of the CRT or the burn-in of the CRT, to these emulators that kind of bring you back into focus with that.
I'm just trying to understand, I'm trying to not laugh because Peter was describing sticking his face on the screen to get all the stuff. And to give everybody in the chat some perspective, there was no cell phone to record the stuff. So Peter probably had to go back and forth to the machines, record the coin dropping in, stare at the screen for 2-3 hours to go, oh, does it look like that? No, run back to the PC, tweak a few things, run back. And there wasn't, you know what I mean? To record those nuances and just have it on your phone or do a video file or whatever. And as you're programming, now you could do that. But back then, it was a digital / a little bit more analog process to get it right.
That coin drop, if I remember right, I tried a bunch of games, and the one that had the best sound was my Midway Boot Hill, which isn't even a vector game, but it had a really good coin drop sound. And I had a microphone, and I had wires running all the way across my basement to where my
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
that type of analog.
There was no way to record it other than run wires across the house. So a lot of the sound effects in there were, recorded that way. I had solder wires on the board to get, certain sound effects isolated. And
I just did the coin drop now, but the other thing I wanted to mention here is one of the favorite games I also loved growing up was Lunar Lander. And all the versions of Lunar Lander, it's always the same mode. And even the arcade one-up, they couldn't have done it a little bit better. But if you look on here on the screen right now, there's a select button. And when you press that select button, you're picking, see the LED lights up over here? Cadet, pilot, command. Yeah. Right, this is what the machine had on it. So this, again, a small little nuance, a little touch, a little attention to detail that Arcade 1-Up and no other emulator has done is this little select button where you pick kind of which ship and which stage. And you don't want to do Commander anyway. You're dead. I mean, I've tried this one a million times, and no matter how much I thrust, I'm dead.
It's the spinning, the rotation, like where it doesn't stop rotating and just sort of additively starts spinning. That's what makes it so hard, I think.
There's some people getting feedback from what I'm seeing in the chat from Peter.
I'm going to crash.
Or even me.
It might be.
Go ahead. Go right ahead, Stephen.
What's that?
There's some questions you wanted to talk about?
No, we're getting some feedback, some actual audio feedback from people in the chat that there's...
when I was running the Vector Dream, because it's pulling audio, it might have caused a little loop. Sorry about that. I was trying to get the
okay. Just
sounds.
What people are saying there. Turn off the game sounds. It's looping. Yep. Okay.
I was doing the game sounds. You could hear the quarters drop.
Yeah. People were like, hey. So they said, oh, Steven's fine now. Okay, that's good. So, but yeah, we were talking before the show, the three of us, and basically we were talking a little bit about some history on Peter and where he worked and all this stuff. And Peter's worked for Electronic Arts, which was really cool. Yeah. So talk a bit about that. I mean, you did mention it wasn't on any games, but still working in that environment and that ecosystem,
Yeah, I was working at AWL, and they were doing their biannual layoffs, and I finally got nabbed, and was looking around, and my youngest was really into Sims and encouraged me to apply to EA, and I'm like, well, they're pretty far, they're all the way across the country from me, but I applied, and they were the only people that, well, they were the first people to get back to me. And they flew me out there, and I did a little on-site interview and some back and forth and got the job. I was a UI person, which is always my favorite thing to do is UI, if you can't tell from all the graphics stuff I've done. But it was fun. I worked there about 7 years, and it was always, especially when I first started, it was weird hearing, you're at work, right? And you're hearing people talk about game stuff, and it throws you off at first because you're like, why are these people screwing around, talking about game stuff? But they're literally talking about work, like the problems with downloads and an upcoming release. We'd have a big ramp up for that and make sure everything worked. And it was the Bay Area, which is so different from where I live in Virginia. Loved the culture, loved the campus, loved the people, loved the work. They, for some reason, decided to part ways with me about 6.5 years ago, something like that.
How long were you there?
About 7 or 8 years.
That's a good run.
Yeah, it was fun. And, the money was great.
Yeah, I bet.
It was really, really great. I missed that a lot.
Yeah. No, look, from what I read, you worked on the Origin software, which is kind of like their Steam, you were saying.
Yeah.
If you were playing an EA game, you had to get Origin to play the thing and buy it or whatever, right? So.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about that, like that experience of doing not a game, but just a product for EA?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I focused on the UI. One of the first things I did was just sort of a cleanup because their UI was kind of all over the place. It wasn't following the design specifications. So I created a component library of here's a button, here's a radio button, here's a checkbox, here's an input, and you could drag all these onto a form. We used a library called Qt, like the letter Q and the letter T. It was like a cross-platform framework for writing software that you could run it on Windows, recompile it on Mac, and it would basically work the same.
Okay.
So that's what Origin was written on top of. And then, like I said, I had this component library. You would drag form elements in there, and then you'd get like a WYSIWYG kind of thing.
Okay.
Just to sort of standardize stuff so that people weren't creating a button every time they needed a button, and it would look slightly different from all the other buttons. It sort of ties back to Vector Dream in the way that it's like detail oriented. Like I get focused on these little tiny details, and if something's a little bit off, it kind of drives me nuts. So it was a good fit for me. We eventually moved everything on the UI side to HTML5. The backend was C++, and it would talk through this JavaScript layer to the C++. So if you clicked like download button, it was HTML, and that would send a message through the JavaScript to the C++, which would actually do the download.
Okay, interesting.
So it was fun. It was like a full stack kind of job. I mean, if you were implementing a feature, you had to know HTML, you had to know JavaScript, you had to know C++.
The whole line, all the way down the line. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It was fun. Really cool. I liked it a lot, and like I said, I'm sad that I don't still work there, even though Origin has been put out to pasture. I'm sure I could have found something to do there.
Oh yeah, with your skill set, you'd probably have no trouble getting back in the gaming industry. I'm pretty sure that you'd find something if you decided to want to dip your toe again.
You have made some like mobile apps, haven't you?
I did. That was a long time ago. That was like when they first opened up the App Store. I did Adventure, Atari 2600 Adventure. I did a game called Vector Tanks, which was sort of a Battlezone-esque kind of game. That one was very successful.
Those are just for iOS, though, right?
It was for iOS, yeah. I even got John St. John, the Duke Nukem voice guy. Bless his heart, I love that guy. He did some voices for my game for Vector Tanks. It was fun. I eventually, when I stopped doing, I was doing at AOL, I was doing Objective-C, which is what you write your iOS games in. And once I went to EA, I was doing C++, and I sort of forgot how to do iOS stuff anymore. So that's when I started doing just PC games. So I did a couple games on PC. I think they're linked on my website. I can't remember. I've done a bunch of different stuff for PC over the years, including
Yes,
not.
you did. I'm going to pull your page up here. You did have a couple of games. Let's go over to them right here. You had GS Asteroids, GS Pac-Man, Stunt Cycle, GS Adventure, and James. If I'm reading that correctly, about my glasses.
Yeah, those are all for the Apple II GS. I forgot about that stint. Yeah, I got an Apple II. Well, I was into retro computers, and I had a whole, in this room, actually, I had all my retro computers set up. And I got an Apple II GS, and there weren't very many classic games for it. So I was like, well, let me fill this space. And I think the one that turned out the best was Pac-Man, although I never got all the bugs out of it. And I don't have my GS set up anymore, so don't have all the facts of that. But
I guess that was on GitHub, and on SoundForge you also have the Adventure Revised, Asteroids 2, Battlezone 2, iRobot Remastered, and OpenGW. So tell me a bit about I guess the Battlezone 2. What was that about?
That was like, so I sold the rights to to Vector Tanks. And I still had this hankering to like do an improved version of Battlezone. So that's what that is. It's got a little bit of the physics and stuff that Vector Tanks had. I don't know. When I look at a game, my brain just starts thinking about how it's programmed, and I can't help myself but like actually start coding it out. And that's what that was.
I'm looking at your website here with your cars that you like.
Yeah.
The section of your website. You don't own a DeLorean, right?
I wish. At one point, I thought I would own one, but I'm getting up there in years. I don't know if that's in the cards for me anymore.
And the Firebird Trans Am, but you own a Camaro. It looks like.
Yeah, that's Camaro, good. And I have a Pontiac Solstice, which is both of them are yellow. Every car I've ever had, with a few exceptions, are yellow, bright yellow. Love that color.
Can't get a yellow DeLorean unless you...
Did you have a Pontiac Solstice?
Yeah. Little convertible.
That was yellow.
I still have that. It's out in the driveway. Don't drive it that much, but the Camaro is a lot of fun.
Well, yeah.
We had something else in common. You were flying radio control helicopters while I was crashing all of mine, but you did have some RC car. I had a Colt Baron 20, a GVP Cricket, and a Harborough Shuttle. Just kept crashing them. Never really flew.
Yeah, you got to get over that hump. I had a simulator for my computer. I don't even think it was Windows back then. It was just PC that you could practice with a real controller sort of thing, and that was helpful for me. But I got pretty good at it. I was flying inverted. I was flying backwards inverted, upside down, forwards, all different spins and loops and stuff. I was flying real helicopters at the time too. Obviously, I didn't do all the stunts and that thing. But they were both expensive hobbies, and I figured I'd have to just pick one, and I picked the models. Slightly.
So you were flying real helicopters?
Yeah. I was taking lessons, and I did my first solo, and that was the last time I flew.
Wow.
I'm looking right now at your toy collection. You have a nice Tron, VFD, Buck Rogers, Star Wars collection. So, do you still have these items?
Yeah, scattered around the house, but yeah. Some of them are on the shelves like here, but you can't really see. Yeah, I have a lot of toys and display items. And
I see you have an extensive Apple and Atari collection.
Yeah, that's that vintage computer collection I was telling you about that used to be in this room, but I had to make room for other stuff.
I just finished restoring a Mac LC475.
Nice.
So it's just sitting over here. I didn't put the lid back on it because the floppy drive is all gummy, so I've got to clean that out and get it working again.
I loved Apple computers in the 80s when they were first released. The Mac, just blew me away, and I couldn't afford that stuff. So, later, like in the last 20 years, maybe 15 years, all this stuff has become affordable. And so I just started buying all the things that I wished I'd had when I was a kid. I think eBay,
we all do that. We all do that.
Once eBay hit, it was over, man. Because everything that I wanted when I was growing up, I could just have. And, I made good money at AOL, made good money at EA. And it was, it was just an obvious thing to start amassing things.
Yeah. We tried to go big down our nostalgic rabbit hole, I guess I like to call it. What were you saying, Glenn?
Big Tracks was a favorite of mine. I drove mine accidentally down a set of stairs, and it didn't survive. I had the lift, the trailer. This was a fun thing. Does yours still work? You still have this one?
I have a Big Track with the trailer, but I haven't actually put batteries in there. It's sort of just a display thing.
That always reminded me of Battlestar Galactica.
The laser
tank. It always reminded me of that. Yeah, Milton Bradley. It was pretty awesome device. I see you got the Vertibird.
Yeah, I made a simulator for that in 3D, so you could actually fly it around. I think you can still download it.
I never had this one. I had the Space 1999 Eagle one, but it was a poor ripoff because the Vertibird, you had your control deck, a wire went out to the center pod. You can fly your helicopter in circles, right? Yeah. But the Space 1999 one, the controller had the wire directly attached to the Eagle. So the thing spun, but it didn't do anything. You just lifted it up and, such a poor ripoff of it. So
is it just me or Glenn's microphone a little wonky?
My microphone?
Me? No, I'm asking Peter if he hears the same thing I do. It's a little choppy.
Glenn's breaking up a little bit for me, but I figured it was just the stream, but maybe it's not.
Yeah, he buys these microphones from China is what happens.
I do. There was $7, man. I mean, come on.
You laugh, Peter, but he does. He buys the cheapest thing on AliExpress, and he just, I'm buying that, and he wonders why it doesn't work.
AliExpress is too expensive. You can't go to AliExpress. You got to get the 2 for $5. It was $7 for 2 microphones. Bluetooth.
Was it Temu or one of those places?
No, it was actually Amazon. I have another. Wait, I have a secondary microphone. I will swap the microphone out. Let's see if this works. While I'm doing that, Peter,
it sounds like a McDonald's drive-through window. Jason says.
Is that any better?
No.
Is the microphone better?
Still chopping out for whatever reason, just like it did last time. Remember?
I don't know. It's probably because it's cheap.
Maybe
you're on the same age as us. So when you were growing up, you were obviously not in the house all the time. But I'm assuming Saturday mornings there were some shows that were when you were a kid. You took some cereal out. What were your shows back then? What was your era of shows, cartoons in the morning on Saturday?
Oh gosh, I remember loving Jason of Star Command, stuff with real special effects in it.
Channel 2.
What CBS. Did I watch? Saturday morning. So at the time, my favorite TV show was Battlestar Galactica, and then Buck Rogers in the 25th Century. But I'm trying to remember what I did watch on Saturday mornings.
Yogi Bear, maybe Flintstones.
Just everything that was on. It was sort of a smorgasbord soup of whatever was on. I would watch it. I liked the Flash Gordon animated series. That was good.
That was good. Did you watch the TV movie where Hitler was actually in it?
Say again?
Yeah, you're breaking up bad there, Glenn. Really bad.
Right,
I couldn't even make out what you were saying.
I'll see if I can figure something out of you. You guys keep talking.
Sorry,
So
man.
anyways, ask Glenn to elaborate. So Saturday morning cartoons. What about TV shows, series during the week, the live action stuff like example, Dukes of Hazzard or something like that?
Yeah. I mean, I watched stuff like that, but I wasn't like a big fan of anything in
What was
particular.
your show? What was your
My show was Battlestar Galactica. I mean,
so
that
every
show
whatever was
continued.
when did that air? What day of the week?
That was,
air?
I
Remember?
believe, Sunday nights.
Okay.
I think it was Sunday nights. And
So Battlestar Galactica, you said Buck Rogers
yeah,
with
yeah.
Twiggy or whatever.
Tweaky.
Battlestar Galactica was
Much better.
Sunday nights, 7 or 8 o'clock at night on ABC Network. And that's the 1979 original BSG, which is the good one. The remake was okay, but it doesn't hold a candle to the original Cylons, the original Galactica, the original Vipers. That was the show. I agree with you, Peter. That was a great show.
I loved it. I mean, if you want to talk about old versus new Battlestar Galactica, like the new show, great sci-fi, but it wasn't Battlestar Galactica to me.
Thank you.
They could have just taken that idea and given it a new IP. It didn't have the tone. The ship designs were completely different. The characters were different. And the reason it makes me a little triggered is because if you Google Battlestar Galactica and you can put classic, you can put 1978 in there, it doesn't matter. All the results you get are for the new show with some exceptions. And so that's kind of irritating that they sort of hijacked, something that was very near and dear to me.
I wasn't old enough to stay up to watch Battlestar Galactica on a Sunday night because there was school the next day on a Sunday, and my mom would be like, "Get your butt to bed, come on!" And then being younger than you guys, you old farts, you guys there. I got get my butt to bed and didn't get to watch it, so didn't.
I had it worse because, well, maybe not worse, but my parents were split up at the time, and every other weekend we'd spend at my dad's house, and we'd come home on Sundays, and so we'd always be driving or traveling back to my mom's house on when Battlestar Galactica was on. So we would miss episodes a lot, and back then, there was no VCR, there was no rebroadcast. I mean, you just missed it.
Yeah, that's right.
It wasn't until it came out on VHS that I started, seeing some of these episodes that I missed.
Yeah. So what about movies? I see that there's a movie list that you have on your website.
Yeah.
So movies. Okay, so.
Yeah, my internet took a hit. Oh, okay, Peter's back. Yeah, we took a little hit here. Let me see if we can get him back over here. So sound was working fine, but now everything else tonight is going down.
We lost him again.
Down the bottom. Let's see. We did. Let's see here.
Hello.
I can hear you, but you're not in the show yet. I got to get you back to the show. And I can see Peter, but I can't hear Peter. So let's go over here. Let's go back to here.
Hello.
See if he comes back.
Sounds good.
You're not on the show, Steven. Only I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm not sure why it's not letting him back in here.
Yeah.
If you guys can hear me, Peter and Steven, I would go log out and come back in.
Okay.
You have good audio at the beginning of the show, and now I don't know what happened here. We had a glitch, and everything just went out. All right, I think this will get him back here. So let's try this again.
Well, we're there on the screen. So.
Oh, you are. There we go.
Can you hear me?
Say something. Yes, we're back. We're back.
Awesome. We just had to turn it off and back on again.
That's it.
No
It's
Steven,
The
it
typical,
says, but
the typical reboot.
all back. All right, good. Microsoft fix reboot. Anyways,
It must
as
be.
we were asking Peter,
Yes.
was movies, feature films
So I would take a bullet for.
that you would take a bullet for, top 3, top 5, that this is my
Yeah.
movie and I love it
Well-
to death. I'll watch it 1,000 times, kind of thing.
Movies that changed my life is how I'd like to phrase it. That altered the course of how I thought about things. Star Wars, top of the list. E.T.
Which one? Which one?
The only one that's called Star Wars.
Ah,
The 1977 theatrical release is the only one that exists to me. I'm a little snooty about that. Sorry.
No,
well,
you're good.
I'm with you on that. I remember I was 8 years old, went to the movie. I had no idea. No, you just went to the theater with your parents. And the ship flies over and we were blown away. I personally remember Darth Vader. I thought it was a robot. Like, he's a robot. Like, no, he's not. He's a guy in a suit. Like, he's a robot. But I was only 8 years old. But I agree. It was that first experience was something that phenomenal. Sound, music, effects. It was just, it blew people away. Now, Empire, as I've gotten older, I think Empire has gotten good with me because more about the story.
That's my favorite one.
But Star Wars always, Star Wars, like you're saying, the original, untouched. Han blows him a hole in him first. Star Wars.
Right, where it doesn't say episode anything, it just says Star Wars, and then the crawl. So Star Wars, E.T., The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing. What other movies?
Not enough people talk about that movie, really, to be honest. They don't talk about The Thing that much. Yeah, they say Star Wars and all that, but The Thing was a very niche horror movie kind of thing with crazy good special effects.
As an artist, though, like I was drawing pictures on my worksheets in high school at the time, and just everywhere, like all of the front and back of my worksheets were all drawings. And when I saw The Thing, all my artwork changed over to like gore and stuff like that. And so that's why I'm listing it as like something that changed how I thought about the world. And it's just it still holds up. I mean, it's such an incredibly tight movie.
Did you see the remake they made a few years
I
back?
don't want to talk about that guy.
I never watched it, so I had no interest. The original one was always
no
my favorite.
reason to do that movie. But the Tron series is up there on the top of the list.
What do you think about the third one they're working on right now? What do you think of Legacy? What do you think about this third one?
Yeah, Ares. I'm a little worried because it has Jeff Bridges, but he says it's a small role. It doesn't have Sam Flynn in it. It doesn't have Cora. It doesn't have Bruce Boxleitner in it. Like, that's Tron. Like, how can you make a Tron movie?
Is it a prequel or a sequel? What is it?
It's a sequel, from what I've heard, but
yeah,
okay.
It just makes me a little concerned that it's gonna suck. And I'll go see it, and maybe it'll be pretty and fun to look at, but don't know.
Well, they could do lots with AI and all that stuff.
All they had to do, I had the story. I had the story for both films. All you had to do was get a backup tape. They load this backup tape, and it's the friggin' MCP. Yeah. He's coming out, but now he's like a nobody because he's 20 years, 30 years out of date from a backup tape. And almost like a Spaceballs, it could have been. He's just MCP. I was a big guy once. Well, now you're not, man. You're friggin' like 4-bit. And we're like, 128-bit. You're nothing. That would have been it right there. But
you kill him with a magnet because he was on a tape or what?
Exactly.
I'll be threatening you with this magnet. Don't cross me, man.
My CRT's all out of whack.
Oh. Yeah, exactly. He was on a tape. Well, get rid of him on a magnet. So what else you got, Peter? What other movies sort of did it for you?
I mean, I love the Terminator movies, although just 1 and 2. I love the Alien movies, although just 1 and 2. I'm trying to think.
I'm going to switch up gears by doing that too.
On the spot, but
Yeah, I'm going to switch up gears a little bit. So you obviously are an arcade collector. We'll talk about it in a second. But when you're
Yeah.
growing up, like what were the systems you played growing up? I mean, not a lot of families back, in the 70s had a lot of money to even buy an Atari or an Intellivision or an Odyssey 2, Pong. How did your start of this begin in your household?
Well, it was like whenever your Pong came out, we were in a hotel, my parents and us, and there was a Pong in the lobby, and I had never seen such a thing. My dad said, "Hey, come play this cool game," and we played it, and we found you could put a little spin on the ball, and I was just like, and I remember saying in the car afterwards, like, wouldn't that be cool if they made a little tiny version of Pong you could hold in your hands and play in the car or wherever you were? And that actually happened, given enough decades. But yeah, so we got Pong was all the rage back then. So we got a Pong a Pong ripoff or clone or something for our TV set. That was the greatest gift ever. Eventually we got a 2600. The arcade scene was taking off. I was going to arcades. I never had money to play, and I wasn't very good. And so mostly I just watched the evolution of games. Like a new game would come out, and I would just be fascinated by it. And every time you'd go there, there'd be something new and inventive. And I would just go just to take it in, really. I was never a player.
Did you own a console, or meaning did your dad go out and get an Atari 2600 or whatever?
My mom did, yeah. And obviously, Adventure, one of my favorite cartridges. I liked ET. Everyone says it's the worst game ever. I liked it. I was a big ET fan, as I mentioned. So I thought it was fun. I mean, for a 2600 game, what do you want?
You had to read the book. I mean, there were bugs with the holes, which drove me nuts. But you had to read the book. Like that, same with Indiana Jones and a couple other ones. If you didn't have the book, it took away a little bit from it. But it definitely was not the worst video game of all time. I can name like 15 that are way, way worse. But when you became an adult, when you grew up, you're a man now, and you're making some money, there's one thing that you did, which I always remember. I was never able to come out there myself. However, let me pull this up over here. Nope, wrong one. It's hiding under all these different screens. I have too many buttons. I shouldn't have so many buttons. Where is it? Where is it? My Lord.
You almost had it.
Charm. There we go. There we go. Luna City. Tell us a little bit about this. And I know this is, I don't know if there's a sore spot or not, because I know that a lot happened with this, but do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
No, I'm proud of it. Well, it started in like the late mid, like 86 or 87. I don't remember the exact year. I went to a friend of my mom's house, and in his basement, he had pinball machines and arcade games. So I was like, no way, you can't do that. And I bought an Asteroids cocktail machine from him and repaired it, because I was doing electronics repair at the time, and started collecting more and more. I worked for a company that sold arcade machines for people. Oh, you're back. Gave me the experience to be able to repair these machines and restore them, because I was kind of doing that for a living. So fast forward to when I was working at AOL, and I started making. The first thing I did was start getting some of these games and just building up and building up. I was working at Coin Op Warehouse, which is a Lloyd murdered his last name, Thoburn's business that he had at the time. He had a warehouse where he would just wholesale stuff. He'd get it out of old operators and flip it. I was working for him, volunteering on Saturdays in exchange for game credits that I would use to get these cabinets, and they were always incomplete, very seldom. But I would fix them up, make them look as nice as I could, repair them, and it eventually got too big for our basement, and so I decided to build a building for them all, and I wanted it to be as cool as I could make it. And Yeah, and it was weird because I had all the games in there, and I would turn them all on, and once they were in this big area all together, they had this sound that was completely different than when they were in my basement. And then I started inviting people out to come play for game days, and that like hum of people talking and playing games. It's I don't know if you've ever been
pretty special.
It's like indescribable. It's like a wave of sound that just hits you, and it's like it instantly takes you back to the 80s when you would go into an arcade and that sound would hit you. It's like noise, but it's not. It's like a glorious kind of noise.
You can actually hear all the distinctive games and their unique sounds. If you listen carefully, you can actually like point them all out. It's pretty cool. I've been to an arcade lately, and you just close your eyes and you're like, I'm there. It takes you back.
But it wasn't just the games. It was the sound of the games and the people talking over them, and like the little bit of background music that I had of playing 80s sounds. And then you add all that together, and it was like, wow, that's it. That is the lightning in a bottle that I was trying to get, and I never could get until the people were there. So the people were
interesting that the people had to be in there, that you came to that conclusion of what was missing. Is pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. Because when you're I would go out there and play sometimes by myself, and it was just kind of empty feeling.
How many systems did you have in here at its heyday, at its height? How many machines and pinballs did you have in here?
It was like 80-something, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a lot to keep on top of, because every time you turn them on, and
one would probably die or something, or one.
Yeah, 2 or 3 of them would have bit the dust, and I'd have to fix them before the next game day.
What was the one that was the most problematic? What was the one that you had to put the most effort keeping going?
I think just all of the vector games, especially the Cinematronics ones, were always blowing up. Oh, and then there was the Sega vector games like Space Fury, and I had a Star Trek. Those things would actually catch on fire.
Well, really? Those are my 2 favorite. I love those 2. They actually were that bad.
The monitor in there, the monitor they used in there were known to burst into flames, and I had a smoke machine in Luna City for just for ambience. And I jokingly suggested once that we put it inside the Space Fury, so and we turned it on. And, smoke would start billowing out, and people would freak out. But I never did do that.
You probably didn't need to. It'd probably do it on its own.
And then the pinball machines. Pinball machines, you're always having a futz with them because they're mechanical
breaking down.
Yeah.
And did you were the only person maintaining? I mean, this is obviously your stuff. So you were the only person maintaining it as well?
Yeah, it was just me. My ex at the time would help me bring them in the house and move them around if they were big and heavy, but I did all the repairs and all the work on them, and it was just I designed the whole space. Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. I'm looking at this. Cool. I'm looking at this one right here. There's a Zaxxon. I have my Zaxxon right behind me over here. There's a Zaxxon. That's all I have. But now New Wave Toys is going to be making this Crystal Castles, which we have literally right in the corner right here. Mm-hmm. There is a Crystal Castles. And of course, love me some Space Invaders. There's so many nice machines. There's one picture alone. This is just phenomenal. Phenomenal. But it did come to an end, however, at one point, right?
Yeah. So, yeah. I have a book on my website that explains all the details if anybody wants to read thoroughly into this. But it was basically things came to a head. My wife and I split up, and the games, as part of the property settlement, they were valued at their full retail reconditioned showroom value. And I did not have the money for all that because I got them for like $50, $20 a cabinet,
right?
And put a lot of sweat and work into them. So I let about 2/3 of them go because I just couldn't afford to keep them. I kept my favorites. And that was it. I took them, and they were part of MagFest for a while, which was a music and gaming festival out here in the Maryland area. They stored them for me, and then in exchange, they would put them up at their conventions once a year. And they took them to some other things. Like a couple of the games ended up at the Smithsonian at a gaming exhibit. That was really cool.
Nice.
Oh wow.
And eventually this thing led to that thing, and we ended up getting thrown out of the rental not thrown out, but our lease was up, and we thought we were going to be able to renew, and we were surprised to find out that we were being told to leave. And I didn't want to rent again. I wanted to buy a house, so I sold everything I still had, with like exception of like 2 cabinets, and figured I would just get back into the hobby once I had settled into the new house. And prices just quadrupled, whatever the duple of 10 is. Like they're out of my reach now.
They're expensive.
They're crazy, and I don't have that opportunity of working them off at a warehouse anymore. And
Right.
they went from relatively easy to find and in abundance and cheap to the opposite. And I've just been priced out of the hobby now. I have 10, 15 machines maybe in the basement, but I can't imagine ever getting an environmental Dislotron or an iRobot or anything of that kind of nature. Just too expensive.
Especially
I don't
pinball
make
machines.
the kind
They'd
of
be
money.
more expensive.
Yeah, I do. I do still have a black hole pinball machine and a haunted house pinball machine.
Yes,
And
haunted house.
very rare
Love that
type called Farfalla. I have a very rare pinball machine called Farfalla by Zaccaria Pinball. It's Italian, I believe. Very, very odd and very, very cool looking game.
That's really cool. So we usually ask sometimes what kind of cereal people will eat in the morning. So like as a kid, what's funny about coming on that subject, my son made me watch the South Park episode. I think it's called something of the obesity. It's about Ozempic, and the sugar cartel is all like Captain Crunch and Toucan Sam, not Toucan Sam, sorry, Tony the Tiger and all that stuff, and it's a hilarious. Yeah. Did you watch it, Glenn?
Of course.
It's a great episode. So we ask sometimes our guests, what kind of cereal did you have in the morning? What was your
my favorite cereal would probably be Lucky Charms.
Oh, really?
Those marshmallows are so damn good.
Just the marshmallows.
I don't even know if they're really marshmallows. It's like a little concentration of
like
sugar and whatever else.
Styrofoam.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Little chunks of styrofoam that are colored like rainbows and stuff. And but yeah, that's so. Lucky Charms is it still? Are you able to eat Lucky Charms at?
Oh yeah. I'm not a big breakfast cereal guy anymore. I used to be, but I still like Lucky Charms. It's funny. I was getting really healthy recently, and I was getting oatmeal for breakfast every morning, and they had Lucky Charms oatmeal. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm getting so much for being healthy.
Stars align there.
That doesn't seem like it should go together.
And it had the little marshmallows in it and everything. I was like, well, I was trying to be healthy, but Lucky Charms oatmeal.
Wow, I didn't even think that was a thing.
That's like putting salad with like pulled pork and deep fried onions. It just doesn't make sense.
It makes sense to somebody enough to buy it and sell it, I guess. It's that whole thing. But yeah, so we usually ask that, and sometimes we'll jump into like some music. I see. Well, I guess everybody sees that you're a keyboard player, and I'm sure you grew up with music. What was maybe some influence that got you into playing the
Oh
keyboards
gosh.
and that sort of thing?
Uh,
And don't
well,
say "Take on Me" by Aha. There, don't say that.
no, it predates that. This is gonna sound weird, but like my uncle, when I was about, I don't know, 8 or 9, showed us the movie Clockwork Orange, by the Stanley Kubrick film.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
torture one. Okay.
Yeah.
And Wendy Carlos did the music for it, and it was the first time I'd ever heard music like that before. And I went out and I bought the soundtrack, and I would just listen to it just on nonstop. And I got some books on synthesis and learned about the theory of synthesis long before I ever had the money to actually buy one. And I started getting, like, I bought Switched on Bach and a bunch of other albums, music. I just really got into all that electronic stuff. I really liked ELO because they had a lot of synthesizers. Like Queen, even though they had no synthesizers. I liked AC/DC. I liked Pink Floyd. They had a lot of synthesizer work. But at one point I could play keyboard. I took lessons, and then kids came along, and I didn't play for 20 something years, and I don't remember how to play anymore. I can put my fingers on the keyboard and create something that sounds interesting, but I just entered into the computer and then I got all the notes right because I can't really play that well. So I do a lot of the music composition, DAW software, digital analog workstation. But I input it,
Oh, come back. Sorry.
It's
We cut in and out again.
I know. I think Cole is upstairs doing like a hosting of some gaming thing upstairs. I think he's stealing all my bandwidth. I think that's what's happening tonight. He's up with his friends tonight.
Oh man. Bedtime.
Gotta put rules between 8 and 9, man. Get off.
If you get your kids to listen to you, that's awesome. It doesn't always work here. I think we lost Peter's audio. We did.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
I'm gonna have to refresh it again, boys.
He cut us out again.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Let's see,
fine,
can you hear
yeah.
Peter?
Yeah, it's not you. It's him.
No, can't hear you.
If his son is blowing
Let's
away
see
the
if I can
bandwidth,
put you back in.
there's nothing we can do. Unfortunately, and we're getting close to the top of the hour, so we may run a little 5 minutes extra kind of thing, but I usually cut out at 9 because
it looks like audio's coming through.
Yeah.
There we go. Take it back.
That's weird. Like, people are in the chat going, "Audience, here's all people. We can hear you." Steven's
back
got to
now.
go. Okay,
We're good.
but it's weird. So, quit the thing and come back. Do the same thing as we did earlier.
Okay.
No, we're good.
Maybe
All
we'll
Can't they hear me? We were fine. I don't know why they did that. Obsidian, I don't know. Sound was fine, but they bailed. See if they can hear me now.
Just
Yeah.
us still.
Yeah.
No, you're here. We hear you. We see you.
Yeah.
You're here.
It's
Can you guys not hear us? Hear me? Hello.
all gone except one. I guess they could still hear us for some reason. Oh, there we are.
Hello. You were fine.
Okay.
You were fine.
Okay. You got to go upstairs.
What we're going to do is we're actually at the end of the show anyway,
From
so
the
we'll wrap it
wall.
up now.
Clink.
But yeah, my son was stealing, but we're good now. So please, Peter, go ahead. You were talking before when you were cut off.
Oh, I was just saying that I use the sounds from all these keyboards in my music as well because they've got that authentic sound to them, and then they're fun. I have this fetish, if you want to call it, with vintage tech, whether it be arcade games or old computers or old synthesizers, old stereo equipment. I mean, I have a whole big, huge setup in another room of that stuff. I love old electronics. It's just fun.
Yeah, you're in good company here.
Yeah.
You're in good company. I like the stuff too. Glenn it's an addiction, and it just brings you back, right?
Well, no, it's an
in the end-
addiction. The stuff lasts longer. I mean, look how these older things are still running. I buy a dishwasher, I get 6 months out of it, it's dead. I buy a refrigerator or TV set now, a year, it's dead. An Atari and television, they're 40-something years old. Still working great.
Still running.
Still working.
Yeah.
Maybe fix a capacitor once in a while. That's it, and they're good.
Yeah,
Stuff is like us.
nothing lasts.
Like us three here, we were made better. We were made better. The
Yep.
end.
With a little hint of diabetes.
Well, a little bit here and there. A little hearing loss, a little vision loss, but we're still operational. We still work.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll have to get Peter on again. He's good to chat, and
Yeah,
we
that's been great.
do. I think we definitely should have Peter on
But
again. I
less-
know there's potential projects maybe come down in the future. We'll be able to talk about it another time, maybe. Who knows? But I definitely like to have Peter on again. And I'll make sure I buy a better microphone. I'll just use this one over here. This one always seems to work great. It's hardwired. That's a problem.
so
Bluetooth.
before we
Bluetooth
let you
sucks.
go, so Glenn did put in the chat Peter's website. It's peterhirschberg.com.
Yep.
And then in there, there's a whole pile of stuff in there.
Yeah.
Cyber
So there's so
stalk
much
him all
stuff.
day long.
There's so much stuff on his
If you
site.
wanna
We
read-
just scratch the surface on it.
Oh yeah,
If
there's
you-
lots of stuff there.
If you want to read about the whole arcade thing, I wrote a whole book about it. Like I said, it's linked somewhere on that homepage. And
I'm gonna put it up here
I've
right
been
now.
told-
Hold on one second. I'm gonna put the
Thank
link
you.
right in the chat for the book.
I've been told
Boom.
it's pretty good by people who have read it. So I hope people enjoy it and read it.
Yeah, Peter's got all kinds of stuff in there. Let's see what else we got here. There's he didn't have a music link yet, by the looks of it. He's got some artwork up there,
Yeah,
some
I got-
GitHub
I got
pages. He's got an autograph collection that we didn't even talk about.
No.
So
No.
go check that out. So he's got all kinds of stuff in there that you'll understand when you go to the site why we invited him to, or Glenn mainly invited him to the show. It just fits with what we do and what we love on this show. Right?
Nerd. I'm a
Yeah.
nerd.
Nerd. Yeah, we're all nerds. Yeah, Revenge of the Nerds. That's what this era is. People made fun of us when you guys like computers. What the hell is that? And then next thing you know, I'm in IT, Glenn's
Yeah.
in IT, and we're the ones that are basically keeping people.
Peter's in IT as well. We're all in IT, and it's funny.
Yeah,
when
exactly.
growing up, we always told video games are going to rot your brain. There are kids making $3, $4, $5 million playing video games professionally. That's like what they're
Yep.
doing.
That's exactly it.
Although
So-
none of us are breakdancing in the Olympics, so I guess that's a plus.
Well, that's the thing, right? We've come full circle from when we were kids to now, and pretty much have taken over the world in a sense. There's computers everywhere now, video games everywhere now, and it's great, So
Although I have to
but thank
admit,
you.
I think right now, like video games the retro games are going on, like Xbox. I think these newer high-powered systems are starting to run out of steam. Maybe, and maybe I'm wrong.
maybe
I think that now with the price of the console, then the games are like $100 a piece, and you still don't own it, and you're downloading content, and they shut servers down, you lose the game. I think gaming maybe be better on mobile platforms in the future, or the retro consoles. I mean, people obviously are still collecting older consoles. They're restoring these old consoles. They want physical media. That's my big thing. And Peter, I didn't even ask you that. Before we end the show, I got to ask you, what do you feel about DLC versus physical media? I am a physical media person. I want the tangible cartridge. I want something I can, when I own it, buy it, I have it. How do you feel about this thing now? Because kids today, it's like, I just download it. I don't care. No big deal.
Yeah, I want the physical copy the same way I wanted the album when it came out, when, you could buy albums of music. It is sometimes for something I don't really care about. So I just want it and I don't want to wait for it to come in the mail. DLC, fine. But for something that I care about, like I'm a big BioShock fan, I want the discs. I want to have it and I want it to work after the services are gone.
Well, that's the thing with all of this stuff. We've seen it with iiRcade.
Yep.
Them disappearing. We were talking before the show, working with Origin. We don't know what's going to happen with the EA games people have purchased. So who
Yeah.
knows, right? Like if Steam were to disappear tomorrow, I don't know what I'd probably cry because all my games are there, or a lot
Yeah.
of them are there, and same with Xbox, right? So
Yeah.
it's,
Heavy Metal Titans is there. I'm in trouble. The one game I'm in, actually I'm in 2 games, but I'm the bad guy in that game. It's on Steam. Steam goes away. You're not going to play Heavy Metal Titans. That's not going to be
Yeah,
good.
exactly. But definitely we'll have to get you back on the show. We'll talk more in depth about the arcades you do have left over and all
Okay.
that stuff. And for sure, it was a pleasure having you on the show. Absolutely.
Thank you for letting me speak with you guys. It was really fun.
Cool.
And maybe next time I won't have audio problems or the internet won't go down. We'll get one show, Stephen. Maybe 118. We'll have a show from start to finish that just works.
I
and
know
is
what the
smooth.
problem is. The problem is upstairs eating all your bandwidth.
I'm sure
That's
he is.
what
I
the
hear him up
problem
there. I
is.
hear him up there. I hear him. I notice what he's doing. He's probably
You
stealing
know what you
every
need to do
last bit of bandwidth.
secretly is limit his bandwidth to like 1 megabit up and down, and then he's gonna go, "Whoa, okay, I'm good," you know.
That's
then
when
he
he comes in
doesn't
with a
kill your-
machete. That's when the kid comes in with the machete and takes out the parent because he died in Fortnite or something, and then the parent pays the price. That's not going to work. I mean, he has it easier. His son just went away to college, so congratulations to Stephen. His son is out of the house at
University.
college. University, who's apparently got 100 terabytes up and download speeds at the university. He was telling me.
Gigabit up and down is what he's got.
Right
It makes
over
me
there.
sick.
I still
I-
remember when I got my first 28.8 kilobit modem, and I was like, "Oh my god, I have a 28.8 kilobit modem. I'm living on top of the world." That was like
Yep.
the wow, super modem.
Yep,
In fact,
And now it's gigabit is nothing
Nothing.
nowadays, you know.
Yeah.
So
well, again, Peter, thank you for joining once again. I apologize for some of the inconvenience, but we have a great people in the chat. They're all going to check out your site and read some of your content. So much over there. Stephen, we'll try for 118. We'll go for maybe a good show on 118.
yeah, they're all good shows. Just we
They are.
focus on the memories versus the technical crap.
Yeah,
So-
that's all. But the
Yeah,
most important
just
thing
exactly.
here to remember is even though there's glitches and technical problems in games, nothing's more important than people, right? That's what we're here. We're all talking, we're all
Exactly.
communicating back and forth because it's people that really matter is most important. Remember to take a moment to tell family and friends that you love them. Tomorrow is never promised. In between those times and between everything breaking on you, game on.
Don't be an asshole.
And don't be an asshole. That's true too. All right, we're in the clear. Game on. Sit, Blue, sit. Good dog. No, I mean, you got to put more.